Welcome back to the Awakening Conversations podcast. My name is Kate and I'm here with my co-host Amanda. And today we are going to be having a conversation about a more zoomed out view of what it is that we're really doing here living on planet Earth right now, why we are experiencing all the things that we're experiencing, and I think in particular this period of time that is causing so many of us to awaken. We're going to just go with some different theories and ideas and see where this conversation wants to take us and explore some of what potentially might be happening out in the world and why are we going through all of this. Amanda, looking forward to seeing where this goes today. Would you like to open for us with a start point of some ideas of what has brought us to having this kind of broader conversation today around different ideas of, is this just a game we're playing? What is this consciousness thing all about? And why are we having this experience where so much sort of seems to be like, going sideways?
Okay, where do I begin? So I feel like, awakening, as I feel like we've alluded to already, is this process of layers, right? They're not quite done with awakening. We've each had various versions of awakening, and I feel like I'm still coming to see new layers of like, what's going on here? What's playing out? And I think what I'm seeing, and I think what's prompted this conversation, was beginning to pay attention to what's going on the world stage and really seeing that it is a bit of a stage, right? That things don't seem to add up logically, or critical thinking can't quite explain what it is that we're seeing. And so who are these players that are putting on this show for us? And, I could go into more depth here, but really it got me questioning, are there people or beings or entities that are here in roles that are meant to trigger us to awaken? Are they playing a game, right? Is there like this light and dark side? I sent you a message with this idea and we just listened back to it, and the concept of a chess match popped out at me as this, it's this complex, you move this piece here, you have to be thinking like 4 steps ahead, right? And so there's all these variables and possibilities of what can come. And it's like, you move here and then, that impacted all these other variables. And there's like these sides that are maybe one is here to help us awakening, and the other side's doing as much as it can to stop us from awakening. And these opposing forces are, even though they could be viewed as like maybe good and bad from like dualistic perspective, they're all here actually playing the role of awakening us, because even those that are associated with the dark are triggering us to awaken, and as are those that are associated with the light. And so this just, what happened for me was I was looking at the puzzle pieces that our authority figures are putting out, and they just weren't adding up. And I mean, that's been the case for a long time for me, in terms of saying that things don't add up, things don't make sense. I've questioned things for a long time, but right now it's starting to feel a little bit ridiculous in how absurd it all is. And like, you're asking us to believe this, like you're not even trying even anymore. And with that, it was almost like, are they not even trying because they're trying to make us see? Really like, here, I'm gonna spell it out for you. So that's kind of what prompted this idea for this conversation, and we can unpack it more, but maybe I'll pause there and we can go from there.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear you say that. And if I stop and reflect on my experience, and I think many will resonate, what many of our experiences have been spent, especially since 2020, is this almost like, I feel like it's amplifying. And let me backtrack a bit and just say that when I had my own awakening, it was an experience of seeing my ego and how, without any awareness of it, I was just living through it. And, I had the awareness of it, and it kind of was able to separate myself from it and experience life in a completely different way. And I had that distinct thought and feeling of, with the realization of how my mind had painted a picture of my world for me, and I'd lived through the experience of that. And then for that to be gone and see the truth or a different reality that existed, I honestly felt like I got a backstage pass, and I was behind the curtain of the play, looking out at the crowd going, holy shit. Like, it was just such a strange experience to have, that, like, feeling like you're now behind how it all works. And since then, I feel like it's amplified this feeling of not being able to see or understand what I'm seeing. Like, it's like, how do they think that we are this stupid? And it's really challenging. And like you said, this, we could probably get into the details, but much of what has unfolded since Charlie Kirk's passing, and I have not checked in with a lot of it, but enough just comes past me to go, like, this is some BS here, right? Like, it's so tangible and you can taste it, that there's just like, we're just going to say this, do this, point finger here, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, it's just getting so much more, I don't know, like, the word that comes to my mind that won't spit out of my mouth is like, the credibility is just, there's such a lack. Yeah, there's a lack of all of that. It's just disappearing. And it's almost like, it's like you said, it's like serving us up something to say it's steak, but it's like, I don't know, cardboard, and saying, no, here it is, it's steak. And it's kind of like,
don't believe your eyes, your senses. Don't believe any of it.
Yeah, there's something feeling really kind of like, your brain hurts a bit. Like, it hurt before, but now it's kind of like this is getting weird. Where are we? That's my experience. And that's what I'll say
Twilight Zone.
To that. Yeah, like it is. I think it's a disorienting thing, because it's just kind of almost, my question is like, is it a mind fuck? Is this meant
it's totally
to like
a mind fuck?
Yeah, like, screw with us, like, have the vulnerable situation, then throw out all this kind of like crazy, that you are seeing, but then nothing else happens of that. That's the narrative, that's the story, that's where they go, and you're left feeling once again like, I don't know, rolled or rumbled, and like, you just robbed me of something, or so you've done something to my system that I can't quite untangle, and it feels weird, but then they just move on and you're left kind of in the disorientation. And I think when I say that, it's kind of like, is that a tactic? Is that where we're going? And when we were preparing for this call today, I thought to myself, so much of what we're seeing in some ways is like, it's like a kind of collective attempt to cause trauma, and it's been such a hot topic in the last, I don't know how many years, us becoming aware of our wounding and doing the trauma work and like the depths of healing we can go into for trauma, that it's almost like the counter of us doing all of that work is like, okay, wait, let's just pile it on, because we know that it does slow things down for people when they're traumatized. Is this a tactic? So much of what we're seeing is really can be quite traumatic. Like, just
it's disorienting.
And the experience of all the kind of, as you're saying, like, powers that be kind of just, it just feels so amplified that it does. It just feels like pulling, even on someone who doesn't really invest that much in it. It's still there in the energy and in the collective of like, you can just feel this tension.
Yeah. I imagine you like being kind of tucked away in Japan, yet like you were still connected through the interwebs, and you are connected, right? Would you say like if you didn't have social media, would you even know what was going on?
Probably not. Yeah, that's the only way that I do. Obviously, I mean, maybe if something comes on a internet somewhere, but I think the the only way I get my news is through social media. That's when I know
it's probably social media that's like feeding us. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I feel like someone said something recently. It's this older woman who she was like an engineer, had a master's of like engineer, multiple master's degrees. And when 9/11 happened, she was saying that's not how it would, like, scientifically, what I see and what they're saying happened. Mm-hmm. This does not make sense that this is the mechanism that this occurred by. And so she's been studying that. And, she's like a person in science exploring this because she's like, this is not how it would have happened. And so her theory was like there's a different technology that they use to cause that to occur. And she was on a recent podcast. She was interviewed recently on a podcast. And, she said something that stood out to me. Like, whenever there's something, there's the narrative they try to sell you. Then there's a narrative that the alternate narrative that is like the initial conspiracy theory. And then there's like the actual thing that happened, but the thing that they sell, the thing they plant second is the thing to throw you off the third thing. And with this situation with Charlie Kirk, I feel like it's not even three. It's like, there's like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of like what this could be, like who could be behind this, or what is the explanation for all of this. And of course there's always people that come out with like really crazy theories, like, well, he's not even dead. And I typically dismiss those types of theories as like, well, that's just like saying everything's fake. But I've gotten to the point where I'm like, maybe that's possible, because like what I see and the evidence that they give us, it just doesn't make sense. And so I'm like, I can't discount that one any more than I can discount this other one. And that one seems crazy. Like I would dismiss people that would say things like that, because, and I feel like people can go there too quickly, like automatically, oh, that's crazy. But I feel like we're at a place where, for myself, I'm like, I feel like I'm just kind of done paying attention and trying to figure this out, because I'm never, ever going to really know what truly happened. Like, we don't even know who truly killed JFK, right? Like, how many years later? And so it's almost like they're keeping us busy trying to figure this out. And I kind of feel like we're meant to try to, like, we're supposed to try to like figure this out, because this big thing, like, it's kind of a big deal that he was killed in the way he was killed. If he was killed, I don't know. That might seem crazy that I'm saying that, but just like the things like there was no blood on his white t-shirt, to me, like, stuff like that. Like, how does that happen? Like, just things just don't, it could be this, but so anyways, there's all these potential ways it can be, but then it feels like there's so many people acting, like there's so many people playing a role, and they're pitted against each other. Like, are these true like adversaries, or are they just like on the stage playing the role and with the intention of us seeing this conflict play out and start to like, are we like, and what is it that we are waking up to? What is there's something that we're supposed to be waking up to. Like, what is it through this process? Is it that he was someone who was promoting us using our voice and he was being silenced? Like, that's one message theme that's coming through this example of what we're seeing. Is it like, who was he speaking out against? Is it like, there's so many, then there's all these groups that maybe didn't like him. And so I guess if we're starting to see that it's all a game, then we need to question the division that it's promoting, right? I think that's ultimately like where we're going, is like seeing that those at the top are fomenting division. And if we buy into the fear mongering, we're going to play a role of like, we're going to be on a side, right? Like, are you, and it comes in all different levels. It comes in the spiritual community, quote unquote, as well. Are you a truther? Are you like, do you believe this? Do you believe that? Like there's a division on all levels of existence, right?
Yeah.
And so if we wake up to the fact that this is a game, then we need to wake up to the fact that we're being played. Like we're the, right?
Yeah.
And so then it like, once we wake up, it's like, okay, now that I know this is a game, I'm gonna use that to my advantage, right? Like I'll just stop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many couple of things that come to mind. So, I mean, such a good question to pose. So like we've woken up to the game. Now what? Like, what is it that we're supposed to do when we have awoken to this game? I think, it's the most important thing, as you just said there, and as you were saying it, I just saw, to just go back a bit, like when you said, here's the narrative that they tell us, then here's the first conspiracy theory, right? We've got the two ends of the pendulum, so that we're looking like all the way over here or all the way over here and not in the middle here where the actual thing, the truth that happened. Then over here on the side of the conspiracy theories, that splits apart into lots of conspiracy theories. So now our heads, if we're over in this lane going, I don't believe that, it's got to be something else. I now like have our attention spread across all of these different potentials, right? And so our mind now just goes like this, like tentacles out into like, oh, what is it? Which rabbit hole do I go down, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's the confusion. Even if you come from a place of, I don't believe this story, as an awakened person going, that's not real. But our desire to know and our desire to, seek truth naturally can lead us over here to be like, okay, what else could it be? But again, even as awakened people, we can easily get ourselves stuck over here because, we want to reconcile this in some way because it doesn't make sense, right? And I think that's sort of speaking to some of that feeling that I've had without even looking at too much of it, is like, there's something unresolved in me. Like I can feel myself being played and I don't like it, right? And it's creating some kind of tension within me of like, why does this have to happen? And, so like there is this, what's the word? Like distortion isn't quite the word I'm after, but like there's this some tension within me, even though I don't even live in a country where this has got anything to do with me. It exists in the field, right? Because it affects everything. It affects so much and so many people that I know as well. And so that zoom out, okay, like when we can step back and see like even the best of us could get caught up in pursuing the avenue to find and understand this just because, we've been left with this like feeling like our head's been split in part, our mind's been split and we can't quite process what we just saw, just the challenge of seeing the thing and whatever. Then, all of that, we have to step out and be like, okay, look what that's doing. Look at what that one event has, rolled out into the collective mind, into the collective consciousness, as you said, into many different aspects of society, the spiritual communities, just the, everyday Joe, everywhere. It's we're not immune because we're spiritual to being played. It's, yes, we can be awakened, but there's something else happening in that, like that the drawing on your goodness, your heartstrings, your emotions, and as best we can and know to like, okay, we can see it for what it is, that we can still find ourselves like so caught up in that. And so then coming back to like, what are we waking up to? What is then this role that we play if we can start to see, okay, really see that for what it is? How do we zoom right out? I think first and foremost, because as you said, like it's we want to know, right? Like it could be this, it could be that. And there's some part of us needs this closure. I think so many things have happened, especially in the last 5 years, that is just this accumulation of lies and hiding of truth that we're kind of all getting very frustrated and irritated. And so it's forcing us to kind of even demand and search some more. So again, it's to me a more of a pull of our attention because they're just constantly lying to us. Like it's like being in a relationship where you know the person's lying and I don't know, like they're not being honest with you and you can't make that connection with them, or, you know, like it's playing with us on so many levels. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been in this relationship where we haven't, I thought word closure is really good because we don't have closure on the lies that were told to us about COVID, for example. And so I think when I see this event representing, it's like, I think it was very intentional that this was shown to people. This was made so, which is interesting because so like acts of violence like that are hidden on a lot of social media. Yet they allowed anyone who wanted to see that.
Yeah.
I think that was intentional that we saw it. And if we think about it from a game perspective, and the game is to try to awaken us, when are we going to no longer accept lies and gaslighting and abuse, essentially, to continue without demanding some sort of resolution and closure, right? Like, are we going to allow blatant lies to happen and just forget? To allow, let's move on to the next thing in the news cycle and not demand that the people that supposedly are in charge just get away with things. And it's probably gonna, like, people are gonna get to a breaking point, I believe, and it's probably not gonna be handled in the most peaceful of ways in certain regards. And so it's gonna get messy. Like, I think it's likely gonna get messy while in order to, like, it's going to come out as anger, right? So there's, right, the grief process, anger is part of that. And people are angry, right? They're angry that they've been in this, to realize that they've been in this relationship with entities that have taken advantage of them, has not really cared about them, has operated in ways that, you know, the masses are just numbers, right? They're not. And so what we're awakening to is like, where have we allowed those structures to rule us, right? Unconsciously, a lot of the times, right? Like our lives are, when we're asleep, we are operating a lot of times unconsciously and on autopilot within these programs that has come through these systems, right? Like through our schooling, through our media, through whatever our government tells us, through the propaganda, essentially. And we've been controlled in that way. And so a lot of the people who have been awakening already have chosen to opt out of these systems, but a lot have not, right? And so I think it's like we're just continuing to be pushed and pushed and pushed until enough say, this is enough, we're done, you know, giving you our energy, our emotions, our life force, our power, essentially. And and we're going to keep experiencing things like this, things where it's blatant and obvious what's going on, and it's probably going to be even more insulting until we see, okay, it's true. We finally, like, it's almost like, it's so ridiculously obvious that this is nonsense, yet it's hard to even admit it, or it's hard to, like, it's almost shocking. Like, is this really what they're trying to tell us?
Yeah.
And we can look at it as like, and it is insulting.
Yeah.
But it's also like, we're trying to help you see how things have really been this way all along.
Yeah.
right? Like we've been doing this all along, but now something was said today that was really interesting. It was about, they were talking about like the footage at the college, and it's like a mass of people have like iPhone 16s, right? You have these like high quality camera devices in your pocket. So you have all these different angles to document what was happening. And so like where they were able to control a narrative, say like in the 1960s with Kennedy, right? Like because people didn't have cameras in their pockets, but now we have these devices where we can capture what's happening. And so it's like, in a way, it's like technology is both aiding us and also, right? Like it's this, everything is both working in our favor and against us, right? Like it's nothing's neither really good nor completely bad. And it's really how we use it. But because we have this technology, it's aiding us in seeing more perspectives of what really happened. And so those in control can't fully control the narrative as they once could.
Yeah. And I mean, when you say it like that too, it's like, well, it's that you can in some ways see how they're losing their grip, right? They're losing their ability to hold the louder voice to say, this is how it is, because you can see actually, well, what about this? And, you know, there's literally a phone and a camera and a video that shows something completely different to, you know, it's like watching the news. And I've said this before, but when the Arab Spring or the uprising was happening in Cairo, my husband was working there at the time. I lived in Dubai, or we lived in Dubai, but he was working there. And you see on the news that Cairo is literally burning to the ground and it's absolute chaos. And my family's calling me like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like it's actually happening on 2 streets downtown. And I'd go there, get off the plane, it's fine, we drive all the way and there's no roadblocks, there's no war going on. And yet it made me realize, you know, how media portrays, you know, it's just fear-mongering. And I was like, wow, like I'm living in here in this place, experiencing that everything's completely fine. 99% of the town or 90% of the town is totally fine, or the city is fine. And yet downtown, you can see the smoke and the building burning, but you can drive right around it. And yet the footage on the news is like, it's like the whole city of Cairo is like on fire. And so, you know, it's like one shot. And they try to sell you this tiny little glimpse and say, this is the truth. This is the bigger picture of what's happening. And I feel such, you know, grateful, I guess, to live here and be on the outside of all the things that happen in the world. I honestly feel like I live on another planet sometimes, because my literal little village is peaceful and quiet and, you know, nothing much goes on here. Japan's pretty chill. I mean, I don't understand enough of the language to know what's going on politically, and it's not perfect, but, you know, it's not insanity like it seems to be going on in other places. But then I always ask myself, like, is it really that bad over there? And, you know, how crazy
it's hard to know, right?
Is it? It's so hard to know. And then it's again like, you know, because of social media, because of media, because you have this, you know, platforms where they're like just shooting like darts of information at you, and like people jump on it and like spread it around and, you know, all the things. Like how much of what we see ever is truth? Like really, what's the percentage of that? Like, I don't even know. It's got to be low. Do you think? Like
what came to mind from this like thread that we're on, what popped in is that like the idea that we've been sold that there is like a truth, right? There's you know, the whole analogy or metaphor of the elephant, and it's like you're on this side, you see this part, and over here you see this part, and it's like the truth is a combination of all of the pieces. And we're just sold a narrative of what truth is from those in power. And we've accepted that for a really long time. And now we're starting to see that like we can't, that does not hold up anymore, because we have the ability to see all these different little angles that tells a fuller story of what truth may be. And then if you think about that, it's like, you got to start going back and questioning all of history, right?
Well, right.
That's a can of worms.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Right. Like, and then so what we believe to be is based upon history. Right.
Yeah.
And if then we begin to see that history is just one perspective from those that are in power. I mean, that's a saying. It's like those that win are the ones that write history. And so history is used to shape us, right? To allow us to believe certain things. And, you know, I'm sure for you, there's so many things that you thought were once true. And then you hear a different story. Like I thought, you know, the fairy tales when we were kids, there was like one version, the classic version of the fairy tales. And then there was like, people would like turn those fairy tales on their heads from like, or like Wicked, for example. Like that's the perspective of like of the Wicked Witch of the West. We don't know that story in like in the original Wizard of Oz, right? But then we get the backstory and the official narrative is that she's this wicked witch and like she's just like there's one side to her and it's very black and white, and that's how we're easy to control through black and white thinking, right? Like if, you know, she's bad, don't like look at her with nuance. Don't consider that like maybe she is how she is because she was born green and people made fun of her and people were mean to her. And that's why she became wicked, if she was even wicked at all. Right. Yeah. Like, and so those simple stories shaped how we believe. Yeah. But are those even true stories? Right. Yeah. So it's like, questioning the existence of everything once you start to like peel back this onion. Right.
And welcome to the awakening. Right. But that makes me think then too, like what is the point of that? Like, why would we be sold a certain story and a certain picture be painted? And I mean, from the spiritual level, it is the idea of separation, of us and them, of right and wrong, of, you know, better and greater and lesser, or of more value and less value, or of power, greed, fear. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're controllable, right? When we're in fear, when we're in a lower vibrational state, we're controllable. And if there's, I mean, that's like what 1984 is about. It's like they're always rewriting history and a narrative to feed a war. There's always a war happening because if they always have someone to hate, then, you know, it keeps our vibration down. It keeps us from working towards good and things that bring everybody up. If we're always focused on a target, you know, we can bond through hatred. Like we're not bonding through creation and positivity and higher vibrational ways of being if we're bonding over a common enemy. And so that keeps us controlled. It keeps the power structure in place, right? And, you know, it goes beyond just, you know, that's money, right? Money is a representation of this like power, you know, all the representations of that can represent power, money, possessions, land, stuff like that. Those are part of it. But, you know, I think it goes beyond just the physical things on earth, right? It's like energy as well, right?
Yeah. 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 And so as you're saying all of that, it's making me think, okay, well, like someone could be listening to a podcast today and just be like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, play this game, like what the actual. And, you know, yes, first part of it all is to become aware. It begins with our awareness, right? And that allows us to then question and choose differently, make different choices. But, you know, if it is a game, right? And we have been living in this place where things have been designed in such a way to keep us from realizing, I believe, how powerful we are, that we are energetic beings, that we have, you know, well, we've talked about it many times, like just our intuitive abilities, that we know things, we can sense things in new ways, and like taking us to the mind instead of in the body, where we're more grounded and aware, and we can sense energy better, and we can read people and situations in different ways. You know, so mental. And that is what captivates us, and coming back to my own awakening story, like fear was what I lived in. It was a state of fear, and it started in my head. It was a thought about how how are we going to get through this renovation of a hotel on a short timeline, and, the budget that's getting blown out, and how am I going to find staff? And then, all the stuff that we've imported from somewhere else is like, oh, it's not coming till a month after you open. It's like, well, now what are we going to do? Where are we going to find the beds and the tables and blah, 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 and all the things. And so I started to worry, and I couldn't see a path out. And so instead of being able to rationally see things or be in my body, to make grounded decisions, to take the time to make those decisions, I'm in my head, I'm freaking out. And that became my lived reality. And I viewed my entire world and life through this lens of fear. And it was, in many senses, ruining my life. And I really do see it now when I reflect back on it. Like, I just always get an image of like having a TV literally around my own head, like an old box TV that we had as kids, around my head. And it's just feeding me noise. And like, that's what it was like. It was like having 7 TV stations on at once, and like just bombarding me with like fear and stress and anxiety and worry. And yet, the rest of my physical body, I always picture it as it's out in a field, and there's bunnies and there's bunnies and birds and deer, and it's all calm, and the sun's shining, and there's not a worry happening out in the rest of the world. It's all here concentrated around my head. And that's really what the current world is like. And I mean, that is us plugged in to the game, completely unaware of being in the game, following all the things they say to do, and, hate these people, take these medications, whatever it is, follow this set of societal rules, this is how you live your life, buy these things, blah, 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 like just bombarded. And so what we're talking about now is like, so many of us are going like this, I see this, and like, can we take this TV off of our heads, put it over there, and be like, okay, I was literally in a game, like this, just lacking I still imagine that the handheld device for the game has a cord on it, but that's bad. Showing my age again. These days, I'm sure they're like Bluetooth or whatever, but like, you're just literally not holding on to the controls. So, okay, it's a game. I'm going to take my hands off. I think one of the most important things that you said today was that no matter what it is, no matter who's saying what, whether their intentions are to keep us separated or in fear, or if there's information coming into the world as an event or an experience with a positive intention, it's all here to help us awaken. It's all here for us to see, okay, maybe this is some kind of game. If it is a game, what does that mean for me? What is my role? And it is to become conscious of that. And who am I, and what do I do if I am a conscious being? If I know this game is played by fear, separation, distraction, maybe even addiction, all of these things that take me away from, living a life that feels full and rich and nourishing and love-filled and purposeful and meaningful, in its most mundane form, then what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? How do I want to live? Like, what brings me back into my body? What helps me take this TV set off? What do I need to say no to? What do I take out of my life? Who do I maybe cut ties with for now to, claim my own peace and listen to myself and know my life and experience my life in a completely different way? Is what comes to mind for me is, what do we do when, like you said, because there's so much anger that can come from being stuck in this hamster wheel game that we're on. And that's only going to be effective if we can use it from an aligned place to take some kind of positive affirmative action, rather than just feel rage and, send that anger and hate back to the system. We're still caught inside the TV set, and our anger is just like projected outwards with no kind of way for it to sort of help us move forward or out of that TV. What else do you think, Amanda, are we doing now that we realize that maybe it's a game, it's rigged, or it's wanting us to awaken? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, so all that was really well said about, I like the TV analogy, that visual is really helpful. And what comes to my mind is that when we realize the world is a stage and it's all here to show us something, it's what we can't change what's happening out there. And so we can get wrapped in, like, we can see it, we can see it wants to come up for us, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing to not pay attention, but I think there is value in seeing what comes up for us through what's going on. Like, I feel like there are lessons for us in the people who have chosen to play the roles on the stage, right? On a more public, physical, or like large, grander scale. And we just can't get stuck in it. We have to have things that we're doing, we're building, we're creating towards the world that we want to live in, right? Yeah. Like what is our vision for how we want to live? And if we've just been operating under the status quo life of what we believe we are supposed to live, even though it might not be serving us, right? Like when we left the United States, I remember we landed in Costa Rica and we were on a regenerative agriculture farm with only like 3 megabytes of internet, like barely any internet at all. And so it was like a forced unplug. I mean, we chose it, but I don't think we consciously chose
the 3 megabytes
unplug in that way, but it happened. And it was so clear to me that I was operating in this, I call it like a soup or like a fishbowl of chaos. And like the energy was just chaos. And so many of the anxieties that I felt, the anxiousness, was not mine. It was societal. It was collective. And so I was operating on programs that weren't mine, and I didn't even realize that these were not I did not consciously choose certain things. And even I was pretty alternative in so many ways. But even then, like, there was so much deprogramming that I went through by removing myself from that system. So much questioning of like, well, why did we do this? And like being able to see things so much more clearly of that doesn't make sense. Why do we do it this way? Why do we reject? Why do we feel this like fear of pursuing something different? And why do we reject things that are different? Like there's this like program response within us to stick with the normal, quote unquote. And I think that it stops us from pursuing our true paths in life, our true desires. Yeah. And so I think that we really need to go inwards. We really need to connect and become more fully aware of like what we're drawn to do as individual souls, because that's who we came here to be. And the programming, the status quo mainstream programming is meant to keep us from living in alignment with who we truly came here to be. And so if we start to see like the system's messed up, it is, and it's like, where have we been servants of this system by running the program that unconsciously tells ourselves to reject what we feel really called to do in this lifetime. And if we start questioning, we start moving more in that direction, the power that the system has over us when the stuff is happening, it's lessens over time the more we deviate from the normal paths. And so, we're just all meant to be rebels and not whole lives. And that's going to take away the system, the power from the system that we've given so much power. And, we basically, like, when we just sign on to what it tells us, okay, we're doing this now, we believe this now, without fully questioning, we're just, it's like we're zombies or we're robots and we're just like, we're not thinking, we're not questioning. And so we're going to continue to experience these things until we can no longer ignore. We can no longer just act like, oh, that's not happening. That's not, they're not lying to us.
Yeah. And it's so confronting, and I think too, obviously most of our listeners are going to be people who've been doing this in this space for some time, but I'm sure that people the many people who haven't been doing this for some time who are really kind of struggling with, it's even more uneasy for them as their paradigm and their reality is kind of really being challenged. And I think, it is really a reclaiming of our mental energy and of our awareness, of our consciousness, of our attention, and where are we placing it? What is of value to us? And we are in a time where it's about reclaiming our power. It's such a sad thing. But what you just described there is like the autopilot and the powerlessness. And, what kind of world do we have where we just kind of like bob along in the back of the train and like, oh, okay, well, we're going through hell now. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And for those who feel like, okay, it doesn't, what do I want? Like, it's such an important question. What do I want? Like, you don't maybe know the answer, but if you don't ask it and you don't take away the distractions to sit with yourself long enough and be in that space, you may never know the next bit. We have to take that time out. We have to, do the meditation, do the journaling, go to Costa Rica and live in the jungle where there's only 3 megabytes of internet, take a holiday, take a week off work, like spend time alone, go out in nature, like we got to be, if we're up here with all the noise, like it feels helpless and feel hopeless. But that's just because our minds are like plugged into like static basically. And if we can detach that, we can just hear and see and sense and feel and experience so much more, which is from an internal place to help us understand like more about who we are, what we want, even in this moment. It might be something different. It might be to quit your job. It might be to move towns. It might just be to, say more of this to people or do more of that. Like there's information, but it's not here. It's in here. And we've got to get quiet to hear it and to sense it so that we have a way to counter the crazy and be really aware of when we might need to tap out. I think that's important, and I think it can be challenging for some people when that's what their friends do, that's what their family do. And, even in Japan, while I don't know what they watch, everybody has a TV and it's always on. They have TVs in the car. So in the dashboard where the GPS would be, they have TV in the front of the car. And so you're driving along behind someone who's in front of you and you can see their TV and they're like, the light's green, they're not moving because they're watching the TV. It's like, how is this legal? And what are you watching? Japanese TV isn't all that interesting. It's kind of strange, but I don't know. They're just like, they're zombied out on the TV, like an awareness of where is that attention going? Like, that's your power. Like, what are you looking at? What are you paying attention to? What are you giving your energy to?
Good point. Yes. I want to go back to what you said about what do you want to do? And I feel like for so many initial responses, oh, I can't do that because there's programming that has told them, and it comes in so many forms. It comes from their parents and their family and society. Oh, you can't pursue that. You can't pursue a profession in art. You can't you can't make any money. You can't there are all these lies that we've been told about how we're supposed to live. And so we have these impulses, likely because they come from a part of us that's telling us that's something that you should do. But we've taken on this programming that tells us we can't. And that's part of what we've been talking about, of these powers trying to keep us in control. And so when you think about, you meditate on what you want and you like, oh, I've always wanted to do such and such thing. But then the fear that creeps in of like, what, I can't do that. Like when we first started sharing that we were moving to Costa Rica, I got this so many times. That's so cool that you're doing it. I wish I could do that. It's like, I received that comment in so many forms from so many people. And I'm like, but you can. And it's just messages that you've allowed to unconsciously to take hold over you, to overpower these ideas and just totally dismiss these. And, I did too until I didn't, and so, start to challenge, like if there's this desire that you've had, start to really challenge those initial impulses that tell you can't do this, because that's really the path for you, is to release those shackles that have been keeping you from leaving the matrix, the pod, the
TV set,
the TV sets, right? Those are the things that keep you from pursuing it. And if you just, well, why can't I, start asking the question, start following the people that are doing it, start, consuming, make your consumption be about paying attention to people who've done the thing you want to do. And that will eventually be your life, because that's what you're focusing on, and people who've done it. And that's how you're going to rewrite that programming. But coming back to where we started, right? Like I think it's kind of fundamental is that's what the awakening is driving us to. And until we start doing the things we came here to do, there are going to be more and more things to get louder and louder to push us in that direction until we finally get it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And as you say that too, it's like I see it as there's going to be more and more things being loud and noisy to kind of keep you distracted so you don't follow that. And at the same time, as you said, but it's also the catalyst for you to like look at it, question it, step back from it, come in and be like, actually, no, like it's both and it has the dual purpose. It's here to actually keep us from awakening, but it's also this powerful opportunity for your awakening. And ultimately, yes, it's here to be who you're meant to be. And that process of listening and facing all the fears and all the doubts and all the stories, like each time you face one of those things in front of you, you become the person who is the one who does the thing on the other side. Like you're never ready beforehand. You don't come in with all the gifts to like move abroad, and some people maybe, but it's always going to be scary and there's always unknowns. Like that's how it goes. Just, okay, let's point this way. What's my first step? What's my next step? What's my first step? Like just break it down. It's doable. And it's like the most liberating thing in the world when you listen to those things that you feel in your heart are right for you, especially when they're big, like moving abroad, living abroad for, in multiple countries. Like it is you getting to live the you life. Like it just opens the door for more of that. And the people you want in your life, like it's a powerful insight just to have that first nudge. Even if it's to paint, to be an artist, write a children's book, whatever, like it's a door that opens when you follow it. So yeah, if there's another game to play, it's like be you and follow that impulse within you to bring that version of you here. I always sort of see that as like that's the light coming out, that light that starts within us. We've got all the, shady bits that come in with our traumas and our, programming and beliefs and things. When we are able to pass them apart, that light comes forward. It's a countermeasure for the challenges that we see. We feel more grounded, centered, authentic, real, and that helps us find like an anchor in the stormy times as well. So if you're feeling really thrown, it is a call to know yourself in a deeper way and what you're here to do, because it is such a grounding force to feel connected to that part of who you are. Yeah.
Well said. I think that feel like I feel a little complete on this conversation. Like I like where it went, and I didn't know where it would go. But in the end, it all kind of comes back to the fundamentals, right? And if I think when we feel like what's going on, this is confusing, this is chaotic, it's like, what is the antidote to all of that? And the antidote is remembering who we are, remembering what our power is, and that, the more, and probably the more we can love, right? The more that we can love ourselves, the more that we can love others, the more that we don't allow those that want to control us to cause us to hate others, right? I think that's really a true show of power, is saying like, oh, I see you wanting me to hate these people and I'm not going to. Like I stand in my power to not give my emotions to you. And like, I feel like that's like a flex, right? Like you think you have power, you can't, like my emotions are mine.
Yes. I think that's beautifully beautifully said, and a beautiful way to wrap that up. Something for people to consider now that they've listened to this whole episode. Thank you, Amanda, for a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll join you in the next episode.